So one evening, my husband and I were out for a walk, and he looked at me and he said, Maria, what's your secret sauce? What's at the core of your success? And I laughed, and then I realized he wanted a real answer. And what came to mind was a story my dad loves to tell. I was about 4 years old, and I was at the swimming pool with my mom and dad. And they were having a quick conversation, and they looked up, and I was gone. So you can imagine being in a swimming pool and not seeing your child makes you a little nervous. And they looked up, and what they saw was little 4-year-old Maria climbing up the ladder of the high dive. And my parents are wonderful. Instead of screaming, get off the high dive, my dad jumped in the water just in time to catch me as I threw myself off the high dive, laughing and giggling. And you guys may think, well, I go to the swimming pool. I see parents catching their children. What's so special about this? I couldn't swim. And in that moment, what I realized was I have generally been fearless my entire life, in work and in experiences. Now, I'm not telling you I'm never afraid, but I'm generally fearless. And then I started thinking about fearlessness as a motivator for change. And as I thought more about it, I said, you know, fearlessness can't be the only thing, and we'll talk about why in a second. It's got to be matched with something else. And so I thought, you know what? I think fearlessness is matched with compassion. And when those two things come together, we can make amazing change. So I'm going to talk about fearlessness for a second. So what would happen if you were completely fearless all the time, and you could just jump right into a situation no matter what the consequences? What could happen? Well, instead, here's what happens. Your rational mind gets in the way. Your rational mind that says, oh, wait a second. Remember that time when you tried to do something fearless and someone told you could be in danger? Or someone told you, ooh, maybe you're going to get hurt. Or someone told you, oh, maybe someone won't like you. So you stop. And that's a shame, because I believe fearlessness is an amazing motivator of behavior. I believe it's the thing that just allows us not to swirl in the world of uncertainty. It's the thing that motivates us to do amazing things. I'm going to give you a little story. About 6 years ago, I found out that I was significantly underpaid for my position and my performance. And I had 3 options. My first option was I could leave my job and go get another job that would pay me more. I could sit and be content because I love my firm, I love the people I work with, I make good money. I could be content. Or I could ask for a raise. Well, I decided that I really love my firm, and I really love the people I work with, but I do not like pay inequity. I do not like pay inequality. And I needed to do something. So I was afraid, I will say, at first. I'm like, oh no, what's going to happen? What happens if I ask? And I said, no, I can't go to work every day knowing this. So I took a deep breath, and I asked for a pay raise. And guess what? No drama, no emotion, no label, but I got a pay raise. And I didn't just get a pay raise, I got a pay raise. And here's what the amazing thing about it was. It wasn't about putting a little bit more jingle in my pocket. By asking for the pay raise, we actually started to talk at my firm about gender differences. We started to talk about pay inequality. It wasn't about Maria getting more money. It was about opening up a conversation at my company about women. And in that moment, I realized the power of being fearless. So, as I said earlier, it's not just about fearlessness, because you can go on Amazon, and I'm pretty sure there's a million self-help books on how to be fearless. You know, what's that inner warrior? What are you going to do? I'm sure there's plenty. And really, fearlessness is wonderful because it's that thing, right, that passion. We just heard it, right, that passion in your belly that ignites you to go do wonderful, wonderful things in the world. But there's a dark side of fearlessness. And that dark side of fearlessness is when it comes from the me, when it comes from the ego. Fearlessness can be brash. It can be hurtful. It can be angry. It can cause us to destroy relationships if we're coming at it from the wrong angle. And I'm going to give you 2 examples. One, all you have to do is turn on your TV and listen to CNN or Fox News and watch our wonderful election. Both of our candidates are fearless. They're fearless in what they say, they're fearless about how they talk about each other, but I'm really not sure it's doing anything to bring our country together. The second example I'm going to give you is the leader who is motivated by their own personal ego. The leader who gets up every day and thinks, I know what's right. But what they have lost is the self-awareness to understand that not every decision is good. And sometimes those decisions are bad. And sometimes you can leave a path of destruction when you're motivated by I and you don't have the self-awareness to understand what's going on. So that brings me to the second part of this. So it can't be fearlessness alone. There has to be something else. And I came on to compassion. So compassion is love. It's caring. It's empathy. It's really that thing that allows us to do the most for the greatest good. It's the thing that says we've got to think beyond just what we're trying to solve. Compassion compels us to wake up and think about what that next right thing is. However, there's a dark side of compassion. Compassion is also the thing that can cause us to be slow to action. It could cause us to want to think about every scenario, turn over every rock, think about every stakeholder. It's the thing in trying to do the most for many, we do little for few. It's also the thing that could drown out the harsh realities of decisions we have to make. And in the end, that compassion could cause us to do nothing at all. And again, that minimizes the impact of what we want to have in the world. So I started to think about that. What happens if we could take the power of fearlessness and the heart of compassion and bring those 2 things together? What kind of amazing change could we do in the world? And what's stopping us? So here's my theory on what's stopping us. I will caveat this by telling you, I am not an expert in gender issues. I am not an expert in human behavior. But I have read a lot about those things. And I believe there is a barrier, there's a gap in a woman's willingness to be fearless all the time. And let me give you some examples of why. Only about 30% of domestic and sexual abuse is reported. 30%. At the heart of that, I believe it's because to report something like that, you have to be fearless. You have to be courageous. You have to be willing, as a victim, to be victimized again. You have to be willing to be labeled the villain, that you wanted it, that you asked for it, that you encouraged it. That takes amazing courage to be able to get past that. I also believe that we as women run reels in our head. Now, these stories could be big. You could have a barge full of baggage, or you could have a little handbag full of baggage. But we as women run these reels in our head. We're not good enough. We're not smart enough. We're not pretty enough. We don't deserve whatever. And if we ask for that promotion, if we ask for that raise, if we ask for that time off, then all of a sudden we're going to be assertive, unlikable. Not the really sweet person that I liked working with all that time. Now you're placing demands on me. And so why would we step up and ask? And what happens is it stifles all of those reels, those stories. It stifles our courage and it stifles our creativity. So here's where the compassion comes in. Here's where the compassion is important. I believe we as a gender are naturally compassionate. Now, sometimes my husband will argue with me that I actually have compassion, but I promise you I have compassion. And it is a spectrum. But however, and this is why I believe it's natural, we as a gender can just see beyond the problem we're trying to solve. We can look out and we can see the impact that we need to or want to have by the things that we want to solve. We can go from making it about me to making it about we. And what happens when we are willing to step into the fire, to put our foot in that treacherous water and say, this is not right. We need to do more for others. And I firmly believe if we can take a stand, not from a place of ego, but from a place of wanting to do the most that we can possibly do and have the biggest impact, because it's coming from a sense of compassion. It's not coming from a sense of ego. We can rally people around our cause. We can be beyond judgment because it's not about me. It is about we. And I also believe that the compassion can be so compelling, can be such a motivator to be fearless. I have seen it in my best friend who lost her daughter to cancer. And she became the most fearless person I've ever met to find a cure for this cancer that took the life of her daughter. And all of that fearlessness is driven out of her compassion that no child should have to live through what her daughter lived through, that no parent should have to live through what she lived through. That is compassion that made her fearless. So here's what I want you guys to do today. I want you all to do me a favor. I know that there is something, at least one thing, that you have been thinking about doing, and taking action on. We all have that list. Pick one. And I want you to think about what happens if you could actually reframe that situation. If you could pull from your power, pull from your compassion. Understand that if you take a stand tomorrow and you address that one thing that you're afraid to address, what can you unlock? What can you do differently? How can you make things different for you, for your family, for your community, for your cause, for your business? What could you do? So here's what I want you to do for me. Tomorrow, today, when you walk out the door, tomorrow morning, I want you to be fearless. I want you to be compassionate. And I want you to make long-lasting, sustainable change.